So what I'm going to do, I need someone who's who can be very good at keeping a secret and won't cheat.
Not me.
Who won't cheat?
Christina.
Christina? Okay, so I'm just going to reach in here, and I don't want any one of us to know. Let's go with, I don't know, this card maybe. All right, Christina. Is that your little bag in front of you there? Or?
The black one?
Okay, I want you to put this card. It doesn't matter. Okay. Put this in the black bag, but make sure no one sees it. Not even you. No one sees it. In the black bag.
Put it in the bag.
All right, you're going to keep that safe. Okay, make sure I can go. I'm not going anywhere near it, okay? All right, Sevda, so I want you to imagine that I have a box of invisible cards, right? And in these cards, there's red cards and there's black cards. And I dump one out. Which color do I dump out?
Red.
Red. So I have the red cards in my hand. I just kind of like spread them in front of you guys. So you see all the hearts and all the diamonds, right? Hell yeah. What I want you to do, start saying hearts and diamonds in your head and keep switching between them. Hearts, diamonds, hearts, diamonds. Keep going, keep doing that, don't stop. Margot, whenever you want, I want you to say stop. And when she says stop, you stop wherever you are, but don't say it out loud, okay? So whenever you want, say stop.
Stop.
If you were to change your mind one more time, what would you be at?
Diamond.
Diamonds. So you're at hearts. You want to stick with that one? Okay. So you have red, you have hearts. This is crazy, right? Now, if we're going off probability, there's only, out of every 13 cards, there's only 3 face cards, right? The queen, jack, and the king. And there's a bunch more number cards, so more likely, based on probability, it might be a number card. If you were to think of a number card, what would you say?
That's 4.
If you were to think of a number card, what would you say?
2.
2. If you were to think of a number card, what would you say?
4. 5. 2.
8, 10. Does anyone feel really confident with their guessing here? Like, I'm getting the sense we had a lot of like 5, 4, 8s.
I think 4 is
somewhere in that mid-range, right? Yeah. So 4, 6. Is anyone having a strong sense here? I want someone to feel it.
7.
7? Do you feel strong about that? Really strong? Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Think about that. You said red. You were stopped on hearts. 7. Do you feel strong about that? So, Chris, I didn't go anywhere near that. I want you to just take out the card that's in there.
If it's right.
No way.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. That was so good. It was a group effort.
You guys all did that. Again, I don't do anything. I just facilitate.
We're the magicians here. Yeah.
But she picked it like last second. How did you know it was 7?
I know. Intuition's crazy.
Yeah, we were about to go with 4, and then she was like, 7, I feel it.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
What is good, guys? It is Reed and welcome back to an awesome video. Today we got a tutorial, special one though. This is gonna be a mentalism tutorial, but it also does use a deck of cards, and it's one of my favorite mentalism effects, something I've been doing for a long time. I use this in my working repertoire. It's so simple yet so effective. But the most interesting thing is it's actually jazz magic, and there's been so much talk about jazz magic on YouTube lately. I've seen a lot of YouTubers talk about jazzing with a deck of cards and that sort of thing. But how do you jazz in mentalism? And this also does and is jazzing with a deck of cards, because this will use a deck of cards as sort of the vessel, and so you are kind of jazzing with a deck of cards. But this is an effect that, you know, I did for a long time, and it was jazzing, but I didn't realize it was jazzing with mentalism at the time. It was so exciting to perform though, because I never knew how it was going to work and how it was going to end, yet it always ended. And when I really reflected on it, I was like, why does this always work? And I always could get them to the same outcome, but it was always a different way. So I'm going to do my best to share all the workings of this effect. It's similar to something I've talked about in sort of the equivoque video, how to force any card, but this has a different element, and it is completely sort of a fair choice by the audience, but I use other techniques I've developed to steer them into a corner that aren't equivoque. There's a little bit of equivoque in this, but sprinkled in really nicely, and then the rest is jazzing, and I'm going to give you all my little techniques to get the audience to say the card you want them to say, and it's really quite neat. And this is one of the strongest effects that I do. Even though it's so simple, it just hits so hard the way it's presented and everything. Before we jump into that, I just want to mention the website that has recently dropped, guys. You can go check out some awesome merch. We got the RF Sleights hat. We got the shirt. This is the special edition Show Me a Trick shirt. It's got an amazing 3-phase magic trick built right into the shirt that you can perform with just the shirt on you. It's awesome. So definitely go check that out. We got the standard shirt, sweaters as well. And if you want to sign up for some private lessons, you can do that there as well. If you like this kind of video, don't forget to hit that like button and drop me a comment, and let's get into it. This is an effect I call 7H. You will see why in a second. And yeah, so let's just get into it. So 7H. So you guys have seen the performance at the beginning of this video. That is how powerful the reactions you get always are. They are always so good. And I'm sure you could figure out a little bit what was going on with some of the equivoque, but then the rest is where the real special parts come into this. So I will cover the equivoque, but I'll also link a video to the equivoque that you can get a more in-depth look at it. I'll just cover it briefly here because I've talked about it several times on the channel, and then we'll get into the juicy techniques. Now, the idea of this effect for me was to have one card taken out from the beginning, placed in someone's pocket or have them holding on to it, and then the audience determines what the card is, right? So that was the goal for this effect. This went through many different variations, okay? But this is the variation that I perform the most often. Now, you could use the equivoque full process that I talked about in the how to force any card verbally, which is something I do use in other effects to completely force a card 100% every time. But again, this is a little bit of equivoque and then a lot of just jazzing. So it is different from that. What I like to do is I start, and the setup is to have the 7 of hearts. That's going to be the magic card. I always use the 7 of hearts because of a couple of reasons. It's the most likely card to be named a 7. And now I could equivocate the picture cards and then have them think of a picture cards and have a 1 out of 3. But if they truly can just name any of the 13 cards, it feels a lot more fair. And that's the goal that I'm going for here. The fairness, rather than, even though equivoque feels super fair and it feels like their choice, when we get to the value, instead of saying pick a face card, it's now pick a value. And I liked that for this effect. Again, it's jazzing. It's a different effect, okay? So the 7 of hearts is that card. Hearts is by far the most likely suit to be named, and 7 is by far the most likely number to be named. So we start with that on the top of the deck, and we are ready to go. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You can force the 7 in multiple different ways, but it needs to be a force where they don't see the card, right? No one ever sees it. What I choose to usually do is I'll slip cut the 7 into the middle, okay? So I thumb it into the middle, and then I hold a break when I'm ready to go. And I say, all right, let's just pick out a card here. And maybe I'll do a false shuffle on top of the 7. So I'm just holding a break while I shuffle, maintaining that break. I'm just shuffling the cards above the break, and I just casually say, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna take a random card here. I don't know which one. Let's go maybe this one here. And I just throw out the 7, okay? So all I do for that is I spread through and I say, I don't know, let's take out a random card, but I don't want anyone to know what it is. And then I thumb over, and when I get to my break, I know it's the next card, and I throw it down. I say, let's go with that one there, and I set aside the rest of the deck like that, okay? So we have this card isolated. It's very, very important that they don't think you know what the card is, and neither does anyone else. So you could have any force you like, but honestly, I find it works so well when I just say, let's just pick a random one. Let's just go with that one right there. You could do a timing force, call stop at some point. They say stop, and you say, all right, let's use that one. You force it. So lots of different forces, but my preferred is to just do it myself. I just take it out, but I make it look completely random. And now I like to get it away, out of play, and into someone else's hand. So I say I need someone super trustworthy who's not going to look at this card, but will keep it safe and make sure I don't go anywhere near it. Now my favorite is to put this in a pocket or like a purse or a wallet, because I like the moment of them opening it, but another good option is just between someone's hands. But I usually opt for a pocket. I'll say, so just put that in your purse or in your bag in your pocket for me, and we'll get back to it in a sec. So that's the setup, and now you're good to go. The rest is all verbal linguistics. Now, the premise we're gonna set up right away. We're saying we are gonna try as a group to see if we can get a feeling and try to figure out what that card is. And the great thing about this effect is you can use so many different people to build the card, and you just get the whole group involved. That's why it's so awesome. So I say, all right, spectator number 1, I want you to imagine I have an invisible deck of cards. Now we're gonna go through, we're gonna force the color and the suit. Okay, I always just use 2 little layers of equivoque to force the color and then force the suit, and the rest is completely verbal free choice, okay? So I'm gonna use the standard equivoque that I always use. I'm gonna say, I want you to imagine there's an invisible deck of cards. We have red cards and black cards. I dump one out. Which color do I dump out? If they say red, you say perfect. So I spread those red cards in my hand and I hand them to you. If they say black, you say perfect. I dump out the black cards and I hand you the box of red cards. I want you to take them out and spread them in your hand. All right, either way, they're left spreading those red cards in their hand. And again, I'll link this so you can watch it in full detail if you want a more in-depth on how to do this, but I do this mentally. I have one person switch between the two red suits. So they say hearts, diamonds. They keep changing and changing. I have someone else call stop whenever they'd like. When they call stop, this person stops at whichever one they're at, but they don't say it out loud. Spectator number 3 calls stop. Spectator 2 stops on either hearts or diamonds. Then I say, if you were to change your mind one more time, what would you be at? If they say hearts, perfect, we have the hit. If they say diamonds, then I say, okay, so you were at hearts in your head. That's a good choice. Let's go with that one. So either way, I've just forced hearts. We use 2 little bits of equivoque to force the suit. Now the rest is free choice. So what I do, I will often eliminate the picture cards right away by a little cheeky line. Because they don't know that I know what the card is, I can contribute to this as well. Okay, now obviously I don't want to be the one to say, I think it's the 7. That kind of hinders the effect. But what I can do is just a little cheeky line where I say, okay, let's try to figure out the value now. So based on probability, it's probably not a face card, so it's probably a number card. And I just say that line. Doesn't mean anything really. And it also doesn't feel like I'm helping though at all, because I'm not really giving them any info. I'm just giving them a stat. But it always forces them to not say a picture card. So right now I've just narrowed it down 1 to 10. Let's think about this a little bit more. People never really say 10 or ace, the 1, because ace, people aren't always sure if that's a picture card, and it's also at the end of the spectrum. So we've kind of almost narrowed it down to a 1 in 8. Still a long way to go, but it's like a 1 in 10, 1 in 8 right now. That's before you take into account how often people say the number 7. You need to set it up and say, all right, we're all gonna work together. We're all gonna try to figure out the value as a group now, okay? We're all gonna work at it. Like for example, maybe we could say 3 or something like that. So now I'm killing the number 3, the second most likely to be named number. So again, the line is, okay, we're gonna work on this as a group now. We're gonna all put our minds together and try to figure out what the value is, like a 3, for example, or something like that, all right? We're gonna put our minds together and really try to figure that out. This does a couple of things. It kills the number 3, so now no one's gonna say 3, so now we're like a 1 in 9, 1 in 7. It will also cause them to understand that this is a group thing, and so the first number that's named doesn't necessarily mean that's the number we're going to go with, which is super critical. This is an option, it depends. I don't always do this, that's why I didn't mention it. But when I'm setting up the 7 to the top of the deck, I'll also put a random 4 that's not the 4 of hearts, so like a 4 of clubs or something, 4 of spades, on the bottom of the deck. Now I'll slip cut the 7 into the middle, do the force, and the 4 is on the bottom, and I turn the deck and I set that face up on the table. Another little psychological moment to try to steer them away from saying another really common number, which is 4. Let's say you do that. You've killed 3, 7, all the face cards. They're not likely to say 10 or ace, so that leaves us with the 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, which is our hit, so let's not count that. 8 and 9. Okay, so that's 6 now. And again, even if they say any of those other ones, it's okay. I guarantee they won't say a face card, but if they say any of the others, they won't ever say 3 because you've killed it. But again, we have our ways to jazz this. That's why it's jazzing. You'll have so much fun with this routine, guys. I assure you, it's so exciting because you never know how you're gonna arrive there, and it gets you on your toes, makes you think fast. It's awesome. It's a little scary. Once you do it once, you'll see how it always works somehow. It just always works. It's just all these techniques that we're gonna keep going through now. Say like we're at like a 1 in 6, 1 in 7 chance now. So after I've said the line, we're gonna try to figure this out as a group. You know, maybe we'll try to get the value together, maybe like a 3 or something like that. We're just gonna all put our minds together. Now this is where you use your intuition. You guys will be amazed at how this works, but you just, you know, I wouldn't always perform this as an opener, but this is something once you've established some rapport, you know a little bit about the people involved. You're gonna use your intuition to pick the person that you think is most likely to give you a 7. What are some things to look out for? Well, sometimes you'll know someone's favorite number is 7. Trust me, sometimes it happens. It comes up or something like that. Obviously, that would be your choice. Other times, what I would recommend as a general thing, and this is going to sound maybe a little bit mean, but I just mean someone who's not totally thinking too hard, right? Someone who's maybe a bit more of like the airhead type, like somebody who is just there enjoying the magic, not trying to catch you out and stump you, I guess would be the way. But if you can find the person who you think's the most, just like, they're often really into it, but they're not like trying to like super analyze everything. They're just having fun. Sometimes if you know someone's dumb, they're the one, right? They're more likely to fall into the norm stereotype when you ask them to say something, and that's what we're going for. So I find that vibe of person really works. So you just kind of get a feeling, and I don't even decide who I'm going to ask until right at the moment. I just kind of feel, okay, they're the one. And you'll be amazed at how much this hits. And you just say, all right, what do you think it is, right? And you just gesture at them. So you've just said we're going to figure this out together, like a 3, for example. Do you have any idea, any inclination to what it might be? And watch them say 7. Okay, now if they say 7, you have a miracle hit. You stop, you say 7. That's a good choice. You feel confident with that? That's good. All right, and now you go into the reveal. If they don't say 7, you immediately, like, without skipping a beat, turn to someone else and say, how about you? Right? Because we said we're going to create it as a group, so we're going to start building these feelings together. And you can see how I do this in performance. So do you have an inclination? They say 2. And you say, okay, how about you? 6. And how about you? 7. Right? So here are the techniques now. Once we've got 3 or 4 numbers said out loud, we know those numbers are going to be different, right? And what we also know is that we force them down to about like 6, 7 numbers that they're going to say, right? They could say up to 10, but generally, even if we factor in, no one ever says 2, 6 is very rarely said, 8 is rarely said, 5 is somewhat said, 4 is somewhat said, 7 somewhat said, 9. When we factor those in, it limits the chances so much. But again, this is all, we're being bold, but we're ready for any situation. So you just get like 3, 4 people to throw out numbers. If no one says 7, all you need to do is act unsure. And you can see that in the performance, you can see before anyone said 7, I was very like, okay, and do you have any idea? Okay, 6, okay, and how about you? Like, I am acting unsure, and what it does is it gets everyone else unsure about the values that are named. Now, what if the 3rd or 4th or 2nd person says 7? The second someone says 7, we're going to use some very sneaky psychology to get 7 as our chosen number out of all the other numbers named. So let's imagine this. Someone says 2. You're like, okay, and you? Do you have another thought? 6. And you? 7. 7. Do you feel confident about that? You feel good about that? That's a good choice. When will someone say no to that? Why would you ask someone to name a number that we're trying to intuit of a card, and you say, oh, 7, that's a good choice. Do you feel good about that? Why would they have said it if they didn't feel like that was the number? Why would they will say yes every single time. All we need to do is shift that sort of feeling of, okay, and do you have a choice? 6, okay, and you 7. And do you feel good about that? That's a good choice. You like that one? You feel really confident? And they will always, 100% of the time, say yes, because of course they'll feel confident about the number that they just said as their guess as to what the card is, or otherwise they wouldn't have said it. What this does, though, is to everyone else, including them, it feels like all I'm doing is saying, are you confident with that choice? They'll say yes. The second they say yes, they're confident, I follow up with, do you have like a special feeling, that one, you feel like that's a good choice? So I ask them if they're confident, they say yes, and they say, that's a good choice. You like that one? You feel really strong about it? They'll always say yes because they're confident about it. It's essentially asking the same thing in different words. But those words to everyone else and them make it feel like they are making the decision to go with 7. Because among all the other numbers, they feel the most confident about the number 7. I didn't choose 7. They are the ones who said, you know what? Yeah, let's go with it. Let's go with 7. The other brilliant piece of psychology is if we're going around to different people, right? We say 2, 6, 5, 4, 7. As you go further along, someone's going to want to step out and be the person to say, I think it's 7, right? They're not just going to want to keep going around everyone naming different numbers. So now they're even more likely to say, yes, I think it's 7. And I'm telling you, I've done this effect dozens of times, and this always works every time. So the first out, to reiterate, is obviously you say to this person, we're going to create it as a group, You kill the number 3, and then you say, do you have an inclination as to what it might be? They say 7. You say 7, perfect. And that's a good choice. That was a totally free choice. You chose that. You go into the reveal. If they say 2, you immediately say, and how about you? And how about you? Until you get someone that says 7. I wouldn't do this more than like 3, 4, maybe 5 different people, but about 4 people is the sweet spot before you stop. Now, the second someone says 7, you say 7. Okay, that's a good choice. Do you feel confident about that? they'll say yes. And you say, okay, and you feel like a connection, you feel like that's a good, you feel strong about that one, and they'll say yes again, right? And we're just pushing all the confidence onto them, and that sort of aura that we're pushing onto them will be felt by everyone else, and everyone will feel like it was their decision to go with their number because they felt confident about it. We want to just make them feel good about their choice, and they will want to go with it. Now, what happens if we get through about 4 or 5 people and no one says 7? The next technique you'll use is to pick someone who said like 6 or 8 or 5 or something, or even 9. So as long as you get 5 through 9 named, which you will every single time. It's impossible for one of those not to be named. If you went through 4 people, we know they're all going to say different numbers. We only have about 6 to 10 choices for them to pick from. They're guaranteed to say one of those numbers. So what you do is you now pick up on one of those numbers, okay, as again your sort of feeling. And it's even better if multiple ones of those numbers are named, because now you can force an area. Again, this is all flies because we set it up as we're going to intuit this together. It's going to be a process. We're going to work through it. Let's say they say like 5, 6, and 8, and you say, okay, yeah, so you said what? And I always ask them what they said, like you don't remember even though you do. You said what? 6, and it was 8, and you said 5. Okay, so yeah, so I feel like it's somewhere in that like 6 to 8 range. Like, yeah, that's somewhere around there. Does anyone have any? Of course someone's gonna say 7 now, because 6, 8, and 5 have been said. I said 6 and 8, so you just say something like this. Okay, yeah, I feel like it's in that, yeah, mid-range somewhere, like, always, that's a great line too. I feel like it's in that mid-range, because you said like 6 and 8. There's like somewhere in like 6 to 8 range, like somewhere in that mid-range. Do you have a thought? Anyone? And you're just getting someone to say 7. Essentially, the core method here is you do whatever you can to get someone to say 7. The second they do, you jump all over them, making them feel confident. You say, that's a great choice, da-da-da-da. All those lines that I gave you about making them feel confident. When they say yes, that's them making the decision that they want to use that number, right? And it will make everyone else feel the same way. Trust me. And this is sort of the worst outcome, but it works so well because, again, we're intuiting this card. I never made the decision, right? They made the decision, but you always want to call out all the numbers that are around 7. So we can go like 8, 9, 5, 6, right? And if people said like 3 or 4 of those numbers, now we just make it feel like, yeah, you guys are all in the same ballpark. So it's probably in that area, which 7 is right in the middle. So we'll get them down to it. Especially if 7's the only one out of those 3 or 4 numbers they haven't said. When you say, yeah, do you guys feel any one of those? They'll always end up saying it. And you always know at the end of the day, if you've done everything you can and no one has said the word 7, they don't think you know what the card is, you can just say the word 7. Or just be off by 1. Hit the 6 of hearts or the 8 of hearts. Still very good. You know, you can even do a little out on a business card, like write a little off by 1 thing, have that ready in your pocket that you can place on the table if you see that you're going to be off by 1. So those are some things that I've used the off by 1 before. I just take the miss off by 1. Like, let's say they're on 6 and they won't budge from 6. You can't get them to say 7. You're like, all right, I mean, yeah, I think it's like probably like right in that range, like right around 6. That feels good. We all feel good about that. I mean, I think we're definitely really close. And then when they reveal it, I mean, we said we were close. I said we were close. I didn't say it was an exact hit. So you can kind of have an out in that way. Again, back to what it would look like for this worst case would be like, we're all going to intuit this together. For example, like we might get like the 3 or something. But let's all try to work on this together. So what would you say if you had to pick a value? 5, okay, and you over here? 2, okay. How about you? 9, and you? 6. Okay, I'm feeling it's a lot of mid-range, like 5 to what did you say? 9, 5 to 9 range, like 6 somewhere in there. Does anyone have any other? And you just kind of you see how I'm seeming really unsure. It makes them keep saying numbers because it's like they're waiting for me to feel sure about it, which is so weird, but it works so well psychologically to just keep like a 6. Yeah, somewhere in there. Does anyone have any? I don't even need to finish the sentence. Someone have any? 7? 7. You like that choice? You feel confident about that? Yeah, you have a strong feeling? Okay, I mean, it's all on you. You said 7. Right? I can even throw it onto them if I know if they say, yes, I'm confident, it's a good choice, I want it, then I know I can say, okay, it's all on you, and we'll see if this works. And you will get it every time. So it's literally, you're making all these decisions, but it does not seem like it. And you can see that from the performance. So for the reveal, I will usually just recap quickly. I'll say, think about this. We pulled out a random card. You made all the decisions. You picked the color, the suit, and together we intuited the value of 7. Take a look, and they will flip over the 7 of hearts. You have that nice suspenseful moment. They take it out of the pocket, and it's bound to kill. I'll do a quick performance voiceover so you can see exactly what's going on in this particular performance. I can give you some of the techniques that I used, and you can see them in real time.
All right, so the first thing you'll notice is me emphasize the importance of finding someone who will is good at keeping a secret, someone I can trust. And this is just to ensure that when I give out the card that they don't peek at it, right? You want to kind of establish that so you know that they won't look at it. Then you see the force I go with. It's just simple. I have a break and I'm just thumbing through the cards and I just throw one out very casually. And that way it convinces them, even I don't know what the card is, it feels very random. And then I carefully slide the card along the table and hand that card to her to keep safe. The trustworthy person, which I know won't look at the card or give it away. Now I'm just doing the equivoque force with the invisible box, and you see it hit. I just got the perfect red was named. What's interesting with the suit force in this case is you'll see it was kind of the second best outcome. She changed her minds to diamonds, and you see how I handle it to get her back to hearts. So I just say, you were on hearts in your mind. That's a good choice. Do you want to stick with that one? And she just agrees. She says yes. And you can see I just kind of hit her with that quickly. And I'll let you listen to that here to see how I handle it.
And what would you be at?
Diamond.
Diamond. So you're at hearts. You want to stick with that one? Okay.
The important thing here is just to always have your follow-up line ready when using your equivoque, so that it feels very natural, like that's what you were going to say the whole time. Now I'm going to try to let you hear a little bit more of what I'm saying, but right here to start, I'm going to use the cheeky line of, based off probability, it's most likely that card is not a face card, and that'll just force them to not pick a face card. They don't really think about it at all, but that one line will get them to never say a face card, and no one really thinks about it because it just flies by. It technically is correct, so it makes sense and no one questions it.
So you have red, you have hearts. This is crazy, right? Now, if we're going off probability, there's only, out of every 13 cards, there's only 3 face cards, right? The queen, jack, and the king. And there's a bunch more number cards, so more likely, based on probability, it might be a number card.
So here it's interesting. I go with my first choice, and the reason I chose her, I just felt like she was really enjoying everything I was doing, and I felt like she wasn't being too critical about trying to get one past me, so I thought she'd just be good to go. But it's interesting, you can see she actually, there was too much pressure, she couldn't think on the spot, so she actually passed me to the next person. And you can see how quickly after I get the number 2, which is obviously not our hit, I'm going to follow up by asking the next person again, and then after that I'll ask another person, and so I just say we're trying to intuit it. What do you think? And I get a bunch of the girls here to say different numbers. Now this is a great example because none of them say 7, so this is a perfect example of how sort of the worst case scenario of this effect can still play extremely strong, and how I'm going to get us back to the number 7.
If you were to think of a number card, what would you say?
I was 4. I was
If you were
not
to think of a
listening.
number card, what would you say?
2.
2. If you were to think of a number card, what would you say?
4. 5.
2.
8, 10.
So what I'm doing is I'm calling out the numbers that are around 7, and I just say, I feel like we had a lot of 5, 4, 8, 6, stuff that's around the mid-range, around that 7 range. Basically the justification is I'm saying that we've all named a bunch of cards around the number 7, around that mid-range, right? And this works, and you'll always get several numbers around the mid-range, because if you remember, I mentioned how many numbers we've eliminated. We've eliminated 1 and 10. We've eliminated all the face cards. And if you kill even 3 and 4 with some of the other techniques, if you ask, 4 or 5 people, you're guaranteed to get, 5, 6, 8, 9, even 4, you can stretch it. And those will allow you to say, several people have named numbers in the middle, and no matter what situation you're in, you're always going to end up with this being true. You just say, so it seems we have a lot of mid numbers, like you said 5, and what did you say, 8? And you can always ask them. I like to ask them what the number they said was, just to remind me, even though I know, I'm going to get the answer I want. I wouldn't ask that to a person who said 2. I look at someone who said 8 or 5 and have them repeat it. We've all said a bunch of numbers that are around 7. Now I don't say around 7, but I say we've all picked a bunch of like mid-level numbers. And you can see how instantly now they're all reframed to pick some more mid-level numbers. And they completely agree with my statement. You can hear them all say yes because it's a sensible statement. It makes sense. And now what I do is I just name basically all the mid-level numbers except 7, because I'm trying to get one of them to say 7 at whatever cost. So I say, you know, we had a 4, a 6, an 8, a 5, and then I say, like, does anyone have a sense about one of those mid-level numbers? Like, and I'm just acting unsure. You see how my demeanor the whole time is very unsure, and that makes everyone else feel unsure as well, right? And that'll allow us to keep going, keep trying to find more numbers until I change my demeanor, I start feeling confident. It has the exact same effect on everyone else, and everyone else starts feeling confident once the number 7 is said.
Does anyone feel really confident that they're guessing here? Like, I'm getting the sense we had a lot of like 5, 4, 8s.
I think 4 is a
somewhere
good number.
in that mid-range, right?
Yeah.
So 4, 6. Is anyone having a strong sense here? I want someone to feel it.
7.
7? Do you feel strong about that? Really strong?
And right there, you see, she says 7. I just say, does anyone have a strong sense about one of those mid numbers? And if she didn't say 7, I would have basically ignored her and kind of turned my attention to someone else, right? I kind of made eye contact with her, and that's probably why she said a number, but I'm kind of was just waiting for someone to say something. And again, 7's the only number that we haven't said. I said all the other numbers in the middle range, so it's extremely likely now that they're going to want to say 7. And again, if she hadn't said 7, I would have just directed my attention to someone else, basically ignored her and said, how about, do you feel anything? You know, what do you feel? What do you feel? Until I get 7. But here now you'll see how I handle it. With 7, she says 7, and I'm going to make her feel confident about her decision so that she will be the one to select 7 as the card we go with. And now that she has confirmed 7, I simply recap quickly about how they made the decision on the color red, the suit hearts, and she chose 7. And then you see the amazing reaction.
That's crazy. Think about that. You said red. You were stopped on hearts. 7. You feel strong about that. So, Chrissy, I didn't go anywhere near that. I want you to just take out the card that's in there.
If it's right.
No way. Wow. Oh my gosh. That was so good. That was a group effort.
You guys all did that. Again, I don't do anything. I just feel so
We're the magicians here. Yeah. Like so
But she picked it like last second. How did you know it was 7?
I know. Intuition.
Yeah, we were about to go with 4, and then she was like, 7, I feel it.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
So quickly, some uses and other ideas. Yeah, this is definitely jazz magic, guys. You got to go into this not knowing how it's going to end and just work through these techniques and just try them out for yourself. That's the only way you're going to do it, but it's jazz mentalism. It's so much fun, this effect, and I've never not hit with this, right? It works every time. Even the off by 1 hits really well, which I've only used like once before. And you might be thinking, why not use equivoque here? Because the feeling you get with this effect is very different, and you'll see what I mean when you perform it. The fact that they kept getting narrowed into boxes until the end has some kind of freeing feeling to them that's amazing. It's just a different effect. It's not equivoque. Equivoque works perfectly. I'm totally fine with equivoqueing all the way to the last part. You know, I've shown that in a whole video, how to force any card verbally 100% of the time, and that works super well. I use it all the time, but this is just something different. And with this, you know, you just use as many outs as you need, guys, right? I've talked to you about all the different options. You know, you could have all kinds of the heart cards set up, one face up in the deck, one on the bottom, one on the top. You could have one set out on the table. You could have one in your hat, one in your pocket. And now, if that card doesn't hit, you say, well, I always have a little backup plan with me, just in case I turn one card over in the deck, spread it, or just in case I put one card on top, or just in case I put one card in my hat. If you're worried about this sort of jazz stuff going wrong, you can make like a ton of outs, right? But I never use outs with this. I just use these verbal techniques to force people into the box I want them to, and it's such a gratifying feeling when you feel like you have control over the whole room, really. So enjoy that, guys, and I hope you like this effect 7H. So that's it for me on this video. Another awesome mentalism tutorial. I love mentalism, and this is jazz mentalism, something you probably haven't really heard of or seen much before, especially on YouTube. So try this out. Let me know if you try it out in the comments, how it goes for you guys. If you like this video, drop a like. I just want to, thank you all for supporting and continue to subscribe. If you want to support me more, you can go check out some of the merch in the description on the website, just recently launched, or sign up for some private lessons. I would love to help you guys become better magicians, magic, mentalism, anything like that. So, with all that said, guys, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.